Today is the day, folks. Voters across the state of Iowa will gather at dozens of caucus locations, pledging support for their preferred candidate.
And while the field is still, of course, quite large, Biden, Warren, Sanders, and Buttigieg are the only candidates to have consistently polled above 15% in the state. Here to share what it's like on the ground is Fox News political reporter Paul Steinhauser, great friend of the show. He joins us now via Skype from Des Moines. Great to see you, sir.
Great to be here in this hotel hallway talking to you guys this morning, just a couple hours from the coffee.
Always bringing the glamour, Paul. We always love that.
Yeah.
So where have you been and what is the energy like?
For Bernie Sanders, there is a ton of energy. He pulled in over 3,000 people in Cedar Rapids over the weekend. That was the largest, he was touting as the largest crowd to date of any of the Democratic presidential candidates here in Iowa. So I caught him last night at his last event, and he was talking about the crucial factor right here in Iowa, which is going to be turnout. I think you may have that sound.
Yeah, let's take a listen to that.
Bring your friends, bring your distant cousins, bring those people you haven't talked to in years, and get them out to the caucus. Because here is the simple political truth. And I say this all over the state, and I believe it to be true. If the turnout tomorrow night is low, we're going to lose. If the turnout is high, we're going to win. So our job together is to create the highest turnout in the history of the Iowa caucus.
Well, there it is, Paul. Bernie's saying himself that if turnout is low, he's going to lose. If it's high, he's going to win. From all indications, I mean, from what we've heard, it sounds like it's going to be very high. What do you think, being on the ground and seeing it with your own eyes?
Yeah, there's a chance it could crack 2008. That's, of course, when Barack Obama had that historic win out here as he went on to win the White House. And there's a hope by the Sanders campaign. They've got a great ground game. I wrote about it over the weekend for Fox News. They're very confident they're going to be getting their supporters to the caucus site, but not just them, their friends, their families, as you heard Bernie Sanders joking there. And that's another difference. And we've talked about this before. Bernie Sanders is a lot looser, a lot more fun, a lot more personable this time around than he was in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many people have also said, since his heart attack, he's been somewhat of a different person, which, I mean, that makes sense. A brush with mortality can change you pretty quick. I know you also caught up with Mayor Pete. Their campaign seems to feel like, look, Sanders may win the quote-unquote popular vote, the first caucus realignment, but that Pete has strength across the state and maybe he could pull it off in terms of the delegate count. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Well, we love the position that we're in, and I also see that caucus goers are making that final choice and want to know that they don't have to choose between the best way to govern and the best way to win. And I'm making it very clear in an honest and respectful but very real difference in approach. Why, compared to Senator Sanders, Vice President Biden, or any of the others, I'm offering the full package and the right way to vote, govern well, and win big.
What do you make of the energy on the ground for Mayor Pete?
Large crowd. Every time I've seen him this past week, big crowds for him. And not just in the big area. I mean, you'd expect that in the Des Moines area, Cedar Rapids, some big cities. But he's also getting that in some of the smaller cities. I was Waterloo there, and apologies, that warm-up speaker was pretty loud, so it was a little hard to hear that. But he's got good energy. And here's the thing about Pete Buttigieg. He is going to a lot of these more rural and smaller cities where he thinks he can really run up the score on these caucus sites. That'll help him out, obviously, when the results pour in. And you heard also in that interview there that he, once again, very muscular in going after both Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Something he started doing about a week ago and continued on the campaign trail each and every day at each and every stop.
I think you're right, Paul, which is that is something that's interesting. And ultimately, that is his only path forward, is he has to bet on those smaller caucus sites. Another person we haven't talked about here is Elizabeth Warren. And yet, she's a huge part of this story. As I understand it, she has one of the best ground games, second to Sanders, in the entire state. What has it been like? Have you seen her? Do you think she could come in second tonight? What do you think?
Sure, why not? I mean, let's take these polls with a grain of salt. I was with her yesterday. She had two stops, Indianola and then Ames, both at university towns. They had large crowds. There was a lot of energy. So, and nobody is writing Elizabeth Warren off. And as you pointed out, it's huge. About a year ago, she started building up her ground game in Iowa. And it is formidable. Yes, her and Bernie Sanders probably have the top two organizations on the ground, boots on the ground. That'll come in handy because it's all about organization, right? Making sure your supporters get to the caucus site. And guys, I just want to point out one more thing, and this is fast. For the first time ever, we're going to get 3 sets of results here in Iowa. not just one. We're going to get what we've always gotten, which is percentages for delegates. So that's kind of the traditional number. Sanders 24%, Biden 22%. We're also going to get the raw vote totals from the first round and then the second round, because remember, if the candidate is not viable at a precinct site, they're not at 15%, their supporters can go elsewhere. So we're going to get 3 sets of results. Maybe we'll have 3 winners. Stay tuned.
Could certainly be. And last one for you, Paul. I mean, Joe Biden still the technical front runner in terms of the national polling. Some signs that he's slipping a bit here in Iowa, and where, Sanders and Warren and Pete, too, are sort of touted for their ground game. He is definitely not. He's not been pulling in those big crowds that certainly the Sanders campaign has been pulling in, and yet he's been remarkably resilient in the polls. So what do you think is going to happen there?
He had his largest crowd to date last night, his last event. 1,000 people at a middle school here in Des Moines. You don't get the energy at a Joe Biden event yet. Some of the other candidates, but those aren't the voters he's looking. He's looking for the people who aren't on Twitter, who aren't on Facebook, quieter, who maybe more moderate and more centrist. We'll see. He needs a strong finish here. He's getting a little low on campaign cash. He needs a good finish here to boost himself moving into New Hampshire, which is also not easy, where he hopes he can make it. Nevada and then South Carolina we would expect to be more favorable states.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, Paul, well, we're going to be with you all the way throughout this race. Thank you for joining us as always.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Paul.
it. Next on Rising, the Republicans also have a caucus tonight. We're going to learn how the president is preparing. That's next.